All right, everyone. This is Professor Thayer with you here today to talk to you about your final projects. So now that we're getting to be about halfway through the semester and you've covered about half of your material, it's time to think about what you want to do for your final project. I know it may feel a little early, but it's getting to be that time. This will be a long range project, and it is instead of having a final examination in the course. So your final project should be something that you put together that demonstrates your mastery of Python. When we take a look at your project, this should be showing, what have you accomplished this semester? What are the things that you've learned how to do? It's also an opportunity for you to use programming for something that's exciting for you. And, I can't tell you why you decided to take programming, but hopefully you're starting to see that this could be really useful to actually get some things done. So the idea here is that you should be thinking about, what's the meaningful thing for you to do for your final project. So a lot of students decide that they want to work on a game. That's a really great choice. So some of the things that you might want to do is you might want to do tic-tac-toe or hangman. Those are really great solid projects. We've had many of those over the years. So those are really good ones for you to consider. So you're going to start to think about, okay, so, what would it entail to make a program that would run a tic-tac-toe or to run a hangman? How would I actually go about making that? Some other great games, guessing games also work pretty well, and also the text-based adventure games. So if you're into that sort of thing and you enjoy that, then you might want to do that. Other sorts of things that are related to that or could be incorporated into an adventure game is a questionnaire. So maybe you're interested in interviewing people about a certain topic. So we get these for psychology, or when it's election time, politics is always a hot topic. So you might want to think about, is there something you want to ask some questions about? And then those kinds of things where you could ask people questions and then make decisions based on what they answer. Variations on that could also be like healthcare kinds of stuff. So for example, asking somebody like about their symptoms, or like about mental health, that's also a popular one. Or questions about like zodiac signs. We've had a couple of that kind, just where you ask somebody some kinds of questions, and then based on the answers to their question, that there's some sort of calculation that needs to go on to decide like what kind of a designation it should have. So think about how you might be using some of the things you're learning, like accumulators and collecting information from somebody. So you might ask them multiple questions, and their answers to different groups of questions may categorize the kinds of things that you tell to them, or recommendations. Other things that are more like recommendations is like about food preferences, right? You could have a questionnaire about, their kinds of food preferences and how much money they want to spend, and then make recommendations for which restaurant that they should try out when they're traveling. Traveling to new places, that's also another one that makes a great project. So you could focus on traveling to your hometown, or traveling to some place that you enjoy going to, and asking some questions. It could be like trivia questions about that thing. It could be questions about foreign languages. So that becomes a little bit tricky, but although the fonts for the foreign languages usually actually goes reasonably well. We've had some like that. Translation becomes difficult, but other kinds of things that can work great are like quizzes on vocabulary, or quizzes on subject matter. So maybe you're taking, I don't know, anatomy and physiology, or maybe you're taking, I don't know, a math class, or whatever class you're excited about. I mean, we hope you're excited about our class, but you might be taking something else where you need to be studying for that. And so these kinds of things where you have this like question and answer kind of thing, where you can ask your user to answer some question, like a multiple choice question or fill in the blank kind of thing, and then you test that answer against the actual answer. All of those things work really, really well for final projects. So hopefully that gives you a couple of ideas to prompt you on what you might want to do for your project. And I do encourage you to use your imagination and think about, what excites you, because you're probably going to be spending a lot of time on this, and you want to make sure you work on a project that you're going to enjoy doing. So do pick something that you like. The other thing that I would just suggest you think about is, of course, this is going to be graded, and it's a substantial part of your grade. So it's important that you do a good job on it. And usually students actually enjoy doing their project, and we usually get really terrific projects. This is usually a real highlight of the class. And if you are having any reservations about, have I actually learned anything, this can really be the proof to yourself that, yeah, I can actually do this. That being said, some of the things that we don't want you to do is to make excessive use of other libraries and these kinds of things. So, I mean, it's fine to do that in your project. So you know that in our exams and so on, that we in your homework, we don't really allow you to use libraries other than a very select few, like import map and then the turtles. But aside from that, we're really trying to steer you away from those sorts of things, because we want you to learn the essential building blocks in order to do your project. So it's fine to use the libraries in your project, but you should be considering those things as helping your project, because you're not really going to be graded on that, right? So we really want you to be coding it from scratch. That is, you should be writing all the functions yourself, and you should be making use of the skills that you have learned in the class. So with that in mind, you want to make sure that you are planning to code things from scratch yourself, and that you're using the things that we've done in the class. Now, you've probably all heard of ChatGPT, and I know there's probably quite a few solutions out there for tic-tac-toe and hangman. We're certainly not the first in the world to do this, but do keep in mind that if I'm seeing a lot of things that we didn't cover in the class, I'm gonna know. I mean, I can usually tell if you've written this yourself or if it has been written by someone else, and so it's really important that you code it yourself for a number of reasons. First of all, for the grading aspect of it, but also because it's a really good experience for you to make sure you yourself convince yourself that you're able to do this. And I think you'll surprise yourself in seeing all that you've been able to do. So I would really encourage you to think about those things as you are considering what you want to do for your project. Now, we are going to ask you to do a proposal worksheet. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to just bring up a sample proposal worksheet that gives you an idea of the level of things that we're expecting you to put in this. Now, of course, you have not finished the class yet, so obviously you're not going to know everything yet. But the idea is we want you to start thinking about this. It's really time to be thinking about what you want to do on your project. And because it is a long range project, it's very important that you work on this and not leave it all to the last minute. So I don't take late projects, and because of our grading scheme, I mean, I really can't take late projects. These take quite a lot of time to grade, and we have only a few day turnaround between when the information comes in and when we need to turn out your grades. So it is really important that you get your projects done. And if for whatever reason you don't turn in a project or you can't, you're simply just going to be graded on whatever we've seen up to that point, which can be a little bit disappointing if you've left everything to the last minute. So that's why it's really important to stay on top of these things. And it's important to think about time management. And that's also something that's really important when you're going to college, because in some regards, people aren't going to be on top of you all the time saying, you need to work on this, and this is how you need to do it. So just because you have a deadline that feels like it's off in the distance doesn't mean you shouldn't be working on it. And it's really up to you to budget your time and to work on things a little bit each week, so that you're making that progress. The other reason why we want you to do that is because inevitably there's going to be something that's going to be a challenge for you. And that's part of what we want you to do, to get that experience of grappling with something and not knowing how to solve it. And then you step away from it. And sometimes you just come back and it's like, oh, how could I have missed that last night? I missed something, fill in the blank with the silly thing that you missed. It happens all the time. And so sometimes just getting that fresh perspective is something that's really helpful. And with your homework and your assignments, you've probably even started to notice that, you pick up something you worked on last week and you all of a sudden just, see the mistakes, or you see something that could be improved. And so that's part of the process of developing the code. The other reason why we want you to do this is because we're here to help you. So when you run into a snag, you have your support team to talk over your project with you and to help you with that. So if you are working on it all along, then when we have our various meetings throughout the semester, you can ask us questions and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. But you don't always know what the problems are going to be if you haven't actually started doing the project. So that's why it's important that you start the project and do a little bit on it. And then, if you get stuck on something, there are other areas you can work on and develop oftentimes. So those are the kinds of skills you want to get, and how you want to think about actually putting everything together to integrate everything that you're going to do. All right, so I have here a proposal worksheet sample. We may have you turn this in a slightly different way, like you could do this in a Python script. This has all the key things that you need to put in here. So what is the topic of your project? So you should have some title here that's, descriptive, so we know what it is. So it could be, adventure game about going to Florida. Great. It could be tic-tac-toe, it could be hangman, it could be any number of things. And here we're asking you to fill out the 3 areas of focus of your project and what Python skill each will show. So because this is in lieu of a final exam, we will be looking at this with an eye on, have you fulfilled the requirements of the class? What have you learned? Have you learned all of the things, or is what your code having, is it all things that we covered in the first 2 weeks, right? So we want to see that you've expanded it to cover a number of topics, that it's going to involve a couple of different things. So here, this sample one has a flow control. So I'll be using if, while, and for loops to control the flow of my game. So that's fairly obvious that most everybody will need to have some kind of flow control in their project, so that you can have the program cycle through in the various ways. This one actually is using file input and output, which we actually didn't use in our class. But anyways, you would fill in something here, like I'm going to be recording the player's score, so you might simply just save it in a variable. And also turtles. Turtles is a really popular choice because you can draw pictures with it. So if you wanted to have some kind of a picture interface for your game, this is a really nice choice. So we'll see those in some of our enrichment activities and other things, so that you can learn a little bit how to use them and see if that's something you want to do. So this person was planning to make a clickable interface. You might just want to have the turtles draw a corresponding picture. You can even learn a little bit about how to display the images. So turtles is kind of nice because there's a really good page for this on the python.org site, and it will give you all the commands you could need. And it's nice to see that you're taking the initiative to learn a little bit more beyond the class. So that could be something that you want to do. In addition to that, we do have some resources that we can share with you. So I'm actually recording this in the summer, and we have not set up your page. I think we're going to be in Canvas, but it should be something really pretty similar. So we have project resources that I've developed over the years. So I'll be sharing these with you on your probably Canvas page. So there'll be a video on getting started with Hangman. So if you're feeling like you need a little help to get up and started, like how do I actually organize my code, this might be a great project to choose, and then you can make use of this video. I put together a lab on using Matplotlib, which makes use of an external library. But then, of course, the meat of the project can focus on doing some kind of a data analysis. So how do you get that data from a person, and then how do you integrate that and to make some plots? So that was something that some of our students have used And so anyways, we're amassing these kinds of resources over the time. So I just would encourage you to um, be aware that we are putting together some of these extra things for you, and you can feel free to make use of those if they would help you with your project. All right, well then, I hope that that has given you some great ideas on what you might want to do for your project. I always love seeing them, and I am sure that you'll have some wonderful ideas. So I definitely look forward to that. I would encourage you to please think about your projects, think about getting started with them, and we will need you to do your project proposals so that we can give you some feedback and make sure that everything's on track, because I think that will be the best thing we can do for making a recipe for your success. All right, thanks so much, everybody. I hope you're enjoying learning how to program in Python, and I can't wait to see your projects. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.